Did you know that your brain is filtering out the majority of what's happening around you and only selectively showing you what it believes is important to you? And did you know that this is happening all the time, right in front of your very eyes, but you don't even realize it? Your life as you know it starts in your mind, in the ways in which you perceive your experiences, and in the beliefs and expectations you have about literally everything. Now, because your brain loves consistency and is wired to keep you feeling safe, it naturally tries to keep life feeling familiar and predictable. And one of the ways it does that is by constantly searching for evidence to confirm what you already believe is true. And so if your beliefs and expectations don't support the kind of person you want to be and the life you want to live, guess what? You're going to keep repeating patterns that don't serve you, and you're going to keep finding yourself in situations that you know on a deep soul level you're ready to grow out of, until you interrupt your unconscious reality creation loop by starting to identify your beliefs and questioning them, and intentionally choosing new beliefs, perspectives, and behaviors that support the life you actually want to create. Because every single one of us truly is a powerful creator of our reality. And that's why two people can live in completely different realities, all while standing in the exact same room. And this is something that we experience every single day in our relationships, right? And we're going to circle back to that. So in our first training session, I invited you to start noticing everything happening inside of you. Your thoughts, your feelings, basically starting to pay closer attention to your inner life in a slightly less attached, more observational way. Because the simple act of noticing in and of itself is incredibly transformational in that you stop living your life as a victim of circumstance running on autopilot and start becoming an empowered, conscious creator of your life. And then in our second training, we talked about how your subconscious beliefs, both positive and negative, are influencing over 90% of your daily behaviors and decisions until you start to identify them and question the ones that don't feel aligned with who you want to be. And in today's training, we're going to go even deeper into belief systems, but more specifically, the inner workings of the mind and how it's actually designed to keep you living in a reality that feels familiar and predictable, even if that familiarity doesn't feel good. Because your beliefs don't just influence your decisions and behavior. They're shaping your perception of life overall. What you notice, what you expect, experience, it's all colored by your beliefs. And as we've been exploring in this course, if that's no longer working for you in some way, you can change it. And I'm going to show you how. Now, before we get into it, if we haven't met yet, I'm Rachel, and I am super passionate about sharing what I've grown through in a way that can help you get to know yourself by heart, which is to say, you trust yourself. You trust yourself to make the best decisions for yourself so that you can live a life that feels true and authentic to who you really are. All right, and just a quick breakdown before we get into today's training. In the first part, we're going to satisfy your mind's hunger to understand these concepts intellectually with some really fascinating psychology and neuroscience. And then I'm going to invite you into a short exploratory writing practice. So make sure you have your journal handy, because this is going to be where you embody the shifts you want to make in your life and apply what you're learning about in these trainings. And then, as always, to close, we'll ground everything somatically and energetically with a guided visualization and channeled sound activation. And I want you to give yourself plenty of time to sit privately and really engage with this so that you can actually do something with it, rather than just get another dopamine hit of info but not actually live it. So light some candles and incense, grab a mug of cacao or tea, and set the intention to make this experience enjoyable. Because the more intention you bring to this, the more you'll enjoy it and the more you'll get from it. All right, so I want to ask you, do you have a favorite book or movie that you've loved for a really long time and every so many years you read it or watch it again? Okay, have you happened to notice that every time you revisit it, different scenes stand out or different meanings emerge for you at certain points? Like it's hitting you a bit differently, maybe emotionally. And, maybe it's not always big or obvious. It can be more subtle, right? But apparent enough to be noticeable. The story didn't change. You did, right? You've expanded through your lived experiences. Your perception of these sort of archetypal stories has evolved. And so you're seeing life differently and experiencing things in a new dimension of personal understanding. And what touches me most about the story might not be the same thing for you, because we're each engaging with the story through the lens of our own lived experiences. And this is how we experience life too, all of life. We don't just experience life purely as it is. We're experiencing it through who we are. So all this to say, we're not experiencing life objectively. Yes, as I mentioned, there's archetypal stories that, and themes that resonate with all of humanity on, in the most like basic fundamental sense, but there's not a one size fits all interpretation of life that's just going to automatically resonate with every single one of us. That's just unrealistic. And I want you to remember that I said that next time you're trying to convince someone to see things your way, okay? And we'll come back to that another time, but just wanted to plant that seed here. But again, people aren't simply experiencing life as it is. They're experiencing life through who they are. Because each of our brains are filtering our reality as we experience it, okay? And let's get into that. So your brain receives an impossible amount of information every single day. But luckily, it has this handy little sorting system called the reticular activating system. We'll call it RAS here for short. That in the background of your awareness is helping you determine what gets noticed, what gets ignored, what feels important, and what ends up getting brought into your conscious awareness. Point blank, if you didn't have your RAS, you would overload. Okay, so I want to give you some practical examples of how this works that maybe you can relate to. Let's say you decide you want to buy a new car. And so you start researching it, you get really excited and like start imagining yourself driving the car, right? And then all of a sudden, when you're out and about, you're suddenly seeing it everywhere you look, right? Or maybe you learn a new word and then the next thing you know, you're hearing it everywhere. Right? It seems like you never really heard it this much before, but now you are. You're like hearing it all the time, right? There are countless other examples I can give here, but I think you get the idea. The point is, the thing was always there, but your brain just wasn't prioritizing it before, so you didn't notice it. Your RAS was filtering it out because it wasn't something that really mattered that much to you before, so it was deprioritized in your awareness. So again, it was there, but you just didn't see it yet. And there's this famous psychology experiment from the late 90s called the invisible gorilla test that illustrates this point in a really interesting way. So a group of participants were asked to watch a video of people passing basketballs, and they were basically assigned to like count how many passes were going back and forth, right? And while they were focused on counting, a man in a gorilla suit like walks into the middle of the scene, faces the camera, starts beating his chest a little bit, and then walks off. And shockingly, around half of the participants didn't notice the gorilla at all. Why not? Because attention is selective. Their brains filtered out what they had already decided was irrelevant because the assignment was to count passes, not look for some guy in a gorilla suit, right? So they didn't even see him. And their mind was only focused on how many passes were being done with the basketball. Now, I want you to imagine how much of your own life you might not be seeing because your mind has already decided what matters most, what's even possible for you, or what's true. And I really want you to sit with that for a moment because your mind is doing this constantly in your everyday life. It's zeroing in on the specific things it's been programmed to pay attention to. And once a belief has been formed about who you are, how life works, what to expect, everything you experience becomes filtered through that lens. And to take this a step deeper, your reality isn't just being filtered through the lens of your beliefs. Your mind is also constantly gathering evidence to reinforce those beliefs as true, because familiarity feels safe to the brain. Even painful beliefs can feel psychologically safe simply because they're known. And psychologists call this confirmation bias. So for example, if you believe people can't be trusted, your brain will constantly gather proof that people can't be trusted. It will seem to only notice reasons why people can't be trusted over reasons why they can be. It'll zero in on certain qualities in others, like the tone, or it'll pick up on any little thing it can to reaffirm that belief. Or if you believe nothing ever works out, right? Your mind will naturally prioritize disappointment over possibility. And your attention will tend to focus on reasons why things don't work out for you, as opposed to all the ways in which things are working out for you in your life. And that'll be the lens through which you're experiencing your life through. And this isn't because anybody wants to feel terrible or be a pessimist, right? Like nobody truly wants that. But I'm going to repeat what I said a moment ago to really help this land. Your reality is filtered through the lens of your beliefs. And your brain is constantly looking for evidence to reinforce those beliefs. It's wired to do that because familiarity feels safe. Even painful beliefs can feel psychologically safe simply because they're known. Okay? So imagine how much of your life you spend in uncertainty, right? And how uncomfortable and disorienting and ungrounding that can feel, right? The brain doesn't like that. That's why it feels awful, right? So it's wired to keep things feeling predictable. And again, even if that predictable, familiar, known doesn't actually feel good for you or it's not what you want, your hardware is programmed to emphasize and prioritize that. Okay, so are you starting to see how this works? Now, we've been talking a lot about the brain, but our emotional state and our nervous system play a huge role in reality creation too. In fact, I would say it's probably one of the most important parts. And it's all important actually, but it all works together. But, one of the biggest factors in belief formation is the emotional impact an experience has on us and the meaning we assign to that experience, right? So this is something that we talked about in episode 2 about our subconscious beliefs, right? So let's circle back to what I shared earlier about the two people who are living in completely different realities, right? But they're standing in the same room. I want you to imagine two people riding a roller coaster for the first time. One person gets off the ride exhilarated. They are just thrilled, alive, energized, so excited they can't wait to go on it again. Meanwhile, the other person gets off completely overwhelmed, terrified, maybe even a little traumatized. They both rode the same ride, right? The twists, the turns, the drops, the speed, everything, it was the same, right? Like it was the same inherently neutral external experience for both people, but internally, it was a completely different experience, right? And life isn't just experienced through the mind, it's experienced through the body and the nervous system too. It's all of this coming together and working together to create this internal understanding and relationship with the experiences of your life that are coloring the experiences that you have. And over time, emotionally charged experiences teach us what feels safe, unsafe, familiar, painful, exciting, possible, which then colors how we interpret future experiences moving forward. Because what we feel emotionally and somatically during both positive and negative heightened experiences is what tells the brain, hey, this matters, remember this, or pay attention to this, or watch for that. This is important for survival or safety, right? And then your RAS filters your reality accordingly. And again, this is all happening beneath your conscious awareness until you start slowing down enough to become aware of it, which is exactly what we're doing in this work together, and how you can start to rewrite your internal narrative so your external reality can meet you where you are and reflect who you are like it's always doing. Now, there's a quote by Neville Goddard that says, "Feeling is the secret." And we're definitely going to go much, much deeper into that in future trainings because that is truly my zone of genius, is the world of emotion and feeling. But what I want you to understand for now is this. Emotion is the activator, okay? It's what gives energy and significance to our beliefs, expectations, and perceptions. And without emotional significance, experiences are less likely to deeply imprint. Okay, so that's why emotionally charged experiences are so formative in shaping our worldview and perception. Which means that if you want to change your reality, it's not enough to just intellectually repeat new thoughts, okay? You have to begin paying attention to what you're feeling, what feels true in your body, right? Like what feels expansive versus contracting. You want to be getting intimately acquainted with the emotional patterns that are connected to whatever it is that you're experiencing in a moment, and starting to consciously choose how you want to feel instead, and actually bringing those feelings and allowing those feelings to be inside of you now, so that you can basically be informing your future self of what you want to be feeling and what you want to sort of program as the new norm for you, your new default setting when it comes to these specific topics or areas of life, right? That you've formed beliefs around that you want to shift. So I want to share a story from my own life about how when I started changing my internal reality, my external reality began to rearrange itself to meet the new version of me that I was choosing to embody. So in my late 20s, I share this story a lot, but it was just such a pivotal part of my story and my journey. But in my late 20s, after about 5 years of living in Venice Beach, California, and living a very much party girl lifestyle, I had this massive wake-up call, which was followed by a deep spiritual awakening. And as I've talked about in my other videos, at that time, that was when I started to become more conscious of my beliefs, my patterns, my habits. And I was really just getting clear on what kind of life I really wanted to live, and how I wanted to feel in my life, and being really honest with myself about the changes that I wanted to make in my life and that I was willing to make in my life. And as I was doing this, I was literally witnessing my reality. I mean, especially when I look back in retrospect on it all, I can see very clearly, and I saw it then too, but very, very clearly I could see how my life was like almost, I want to be careful to use the word magic, but it felt magical. That my life was like magically rearranging itself to meet this new version of me and like offer me support, to help me really continue to step into deeper versions of that new self that I wanted to be. And there were things that happened that didn't feel so great, and they were very confusing and disorienting, of course. But then there were all these other really beautiful things that happened that sort of made up for all of that, right? It was like an exchange, I guess you could say. But the environment that I had been living in that once was like my wonderland, it just didn't feel exciting for me in the same way anymore. Like it just didn't resonate anymore. And certain friendships and types of relationships that had always kind of been the norm for me, they just started to fall away. But suddenly guides and mentors of all different shapes and sizes and types like started showing up in my life in the most synchronistic ways. And I started becoming exposed to new ideas, new communities, that were aligned with who I really wanted to be and who I was choosing to be. And like I said, in many ways, this all felt very magical. And as a Pisces, like, I do believe in magic, maybe not the kind that, you see talked about in movies and stuff like that. But I just, in the sense that, or like books and stuff, like, I'm not saying none of that stuff is that I don't believe in any of that. But when I use the word magic, I mean the way that so many of us have been conditioned to relate to life and to see it so like fixed in this way that, that we've been conditioned to like perceive life and interact with life. And, I feel like that's just not the full picture, and that life is like just so much more mystical than that. And anyway, so that's what I mean when I say magic. But, it did feel very magical when all that was happening. I remember feeling just like spiritually high. That's another conversation for another time. But, it did feel like life was serving up on a platter all these new options for me to choose from. And the reason why I share all of this is because as I started changing internally, I started looking within, I started being honest with myself about what I was believing as true and earnestly deciding that I wanted better for myself and that I deserved better. Even if I didn't fully feel it yet, I was like making my way towards that, right? My perception of life was changing. It was evolving. And thus I started noticing new possibilities. New opportunities were like just showing up all the time everywhere. I started having new desires. I felt compelled, but not only compelled, like deeply inspired and motivated to live a completely different way than I had ever lived before. And it's not that it was like easy and it all happened overnight, but it's just, I was ready. I was ready and willing to do whatever it took. And LA is just as known for its health and wellness scene as it is for its party scene. And I had kind of had my foot in both worlds ever since I lived there. Again, another story for another time. But, because I was genuinely ready now to create a better life for myself and make some important lifestyle changes, suddenly, and that was what mattered most to me. now I was really, truly, deeply available. I was growing my capacity to really see everything and everyone that was available to me who could be more resonant and supportive of that lifestyle change. Because once I started consciously focusing on what I really wanted, what felt true in my heart and soul, right? What felt expansive, who I wanted to become, my attention started reorganizing around all of that, right? And reflecting that back to me. And some of the changes were very obvious. Some of them were more subtle and like sort of like an inner felt sense kind of experience. But internally, I knew I was no longer available for the same kind of reality that I had been living in before. My thoughts, behaviors, and actions, all to the very best of my ability. I wasn't perfect and I didn't always get it right. Believe me, I didn't. But my intentions, I was earnest, in really thinking, feeling, behaving as that version of myself who was available, who wanted to be available for a different reality. And, that was what started, and life started responding to that with these different possibilities and opportunities and what I saw to be possible and what had always been right in front of my face all the time, but now I could actually see it, and because it mattered, I suddenly was able to just be more open to all of that. So I was changing internally, and my external experience began to change too. And this is happening all the time. And I have a million more stories I could share about this. And yeah, I mean, there's just so many, just infinite rabbit holes we could go down with all of this, but I'm really trying to stay on track here. All right, so let's bring this all home. And I want to break down how you're unconsciously continuing to recreate and reinforce the familiar reality of your life. Okay. Number one, you have an experience. It's inherently neutral. It is what it is, like the two people going and riding the roller coaster, right? Two, you assign meaning to that experience. Where does this come from? Well, the emotional impact, right? The emotional significance that you experience in your body, in your mind, somatically, emotionally, mentally, right? As a result of that experience. Does it feel safe? Does it feel exciting? Does it feel dangerous? Does it feel right? It's the emotional charge and the emotional significance of that inherently neutral experience that is what compels you to unconsciously assign a meaning to that experience, right? And as a result of that, a belief forms, or a set of beliefs forms. That was 3. Then 4, those beliefs shape what you start paying attention to. And this is also applying to what you don't see right in front of you, because your brain is filtering, right? As we discussed, with the RAS is filtering what it believes is most important to you to keep you safe. So the beliefs that you have are shaping what you pay attention to. Am I on 5 or 6? I'm not sure. Next, your attention gathers more evidence to reinforce those beliefs. Again, this is part of your brain's natural wiring that it has to keep you in safe, known, familiar, predictable situations. Okay. Next, the emotions connected to those beliefs strengthen the pattern even more. This is more reinforcement. And over time, repeated emotional and behavioral patterns begin creating familiar realities that feel deeply real and automatic. Autopilot, right? And this is why people feel stuck reliving the same cycles over and over again, because their beliefs, emotional expectations, attention, and nervous system responses are all reinforcing the same internal reality. But the beautiful thing is your brain is adaptable. And this is called neuroplasticity, which has definitely become a buzzword in recent years, right? And this is your brain's ability to rewire itself through repetition, emotional experiences, conscious awareness, and programming new patterns into your life through your thoughts, through your words, through your actions, right? And I also just want to say, this isn't about thinking positively. It's what we're really talking about here is changing the lens, your perspective through which you are experiencing life in all these different ways. Because when your beliefs change, what you notice changes, what you expect changes, how you feel changes, right? How you behave changes. And what you perceive as possible changes too. And over time, your external reality begins reflecting those internal shifts back to you. And we will go so much deeper into all of this in future trainings. But for now, I think this is, a great foundation to build from for understanding how your mind, beliefs, emotions, and nervous system are all participating in the reality you experience every single day. So now let's move into the personal practice and start making this real in your life. All right, it's time to start getting intentional about what you're training your mind to notice. And so I want you to make a list of 5 to 10 things that you're ready to start opening yourself up to seeing, experiencing, or believing more deeply in your everyday life. And I want to emphasize that you're ready, right? And that you're writing this, and I'll share an example in a second. Not that you want this and it's something in the future, something you don't have yet, right? Because that can create resistance and keep something in a future time that when all there really is now. So what you're ready, 5 to 10 things that you're ready to start opening yourself up to seeing, experiencing, or believing more deeply in your everyday life. And then this part's also really important. So beside each one, I want you to write why it matters to you. Because the more emotional significance that you're giving to something, that's how your brain is going to start filtering that's important to you, right? And you're going to start seeing more of that available to you, right? As we've just discussed. So an example could be, I'm ready to start noticing more opportunities to do X. Fill in the blank, right? Like whatever that is for you that you're wanting to see more opportunities. Maybe it's with work, maybe it's with your personal relationships, right? Whatever it is, you can kind of fill in the blank there. And then for why it matters, you could write something like, because I'm ready to believe life can support me in new and exciting ways. Or I'm ready to start noticing evidence that people genuinely care about me because I'm healing the belief that I'm alone and that nobody loves me. Or I'm ready to start noticing more beauty, synchronicity, and magic in everyday life because I'm ready to feel more connected, alive, and inspired. And another thing I really want to invite you to start doing is to start highlighting these moments when they do appear in your awareness, right? And I want you to stop what you're doing and acknowledge out loud, verbally, with excitement and like celebratory energy, look at this amazing synchronistic experience. Wow, this is how much life loves and supports me, right? Even if you don't fully feel that excitement yet, but which I don't know why you wouldn't, because it's very exciting when you start noticing things that you didn't maybe notice before, and they're like supportive of what you want to be creating in your life, right? But just really taking those small moments throughout every day to stop what you're doing and acknowledge the synchronicity, acknowledge how life is reflecting you, a new opportunity that you're looking for, right? And be like, thank you. And like offering gratitude, thank you, celebration, like, yay. Like, because you're creating that. You created that. so that's worth celebrating, in my opinion. All right. And all of this is training and reprogramming your mind to like normalize seeing these kinds of experiences in your life because they're emotionally important to you. And so that's going to allow your RAS to filter more of those kinds of experiences for you. And you're going to just keep getting more and more of that, right? This is how it works. And as we move into the guided visualization and sound activation, I want you to hold these intentions in your awareness, okay? Because we've been doing a lot of like mental, intellectual stuff as we usually do in the beginning of these videos. But, again, bringing it into the body, into the heart, into the energy field, like that is what is going to really ground all of this and, make it real on a deeper level. All right. So make sure before we begin that you're in a quiet, private space where it's safe to turn within without being disturbed. And when you're ready, I want you to find a comfortable, upright, seated position and begin to close down your eyes. And we're going to begin by doing a body scan from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. And when I name each part of the body, I want you to imagine that part just melting and softening, okay? So starting with the top of your head, your scalp, your forehead, your brow, your cheekbones, your jaw, your lips, your tongue, your neck, your shoulders, your chest, your belly, your hips, your thighs, your knees, your calves, the tops of your feet, the bottom of your feet, the tips of your toes. Beautiful. We're going to just take a moment here to notice what it feels like to be inside of your body right now. A little bit softer, a little bit more still, a little bit more intentional. And I want you to start to notice the quality of your breath. Is it shallow? Is it the type of breath where your shoulders are moving up and down? Or is it deep in your belly, where your belly is blowing up like a balloon? And just notice. Did the quality of your breath change when you started looking at it? You're not breathing wrong, but your breath is communicating to you how you're feeling in your nervous system. And through the breath, we can signal deeper safety to our nervous system through breathing in a different way. If maybe we did find our breath is a little bit tight or shallow. Okay, so we're going to introduce some deep belly breathing. And we're going to inhale deeply through the nose, and we're going to fill up the belly. Right, so you're bringing in every inhale into the belly and blowing it up like a balloon. And then exhaling out the mouth. Again. And it's okay if you're filling up your belly and then the breath naturally puffs up your chest. That's good. Just fill up with as much oxygen as you can. You're inhaling through the nose, and when you're exhaling out the mouth. Letting out a light, gentle sound. And I want you to keep breathing like this for a few moments at your own pace. I'm going to do it with you. And let the breaths be long and slow and deep. And this is really signaling to your nervous system. You're activating your parasympathetic nervous system. which is your rest and digest setting, where you can feel relaxed and present and open and receptive. And this is also shifting your brainwave state so that you can be more suggestible to how I'm guiding you and the visuals and the feelings that I'm going to invite you into experiencing within yourself in just a moment here, so that we can imprint in your subconscious mind the types of experiences and beliefs that you're ready to start noticing more of in your life. And as a result, having your external reality reflect these internal shifts that you're creating within yourself back to you. So continuing with the deep breaths. Good. Now I want you to bring to mind one of the things that you wrote down that you're deciding you're ready to start opening yourself up to seeing, experiencing, and believing more deeply in your life. Good. And it doesn't have to be verbatim, but I want you to repeat that in your mind right now, keeping your eyes closed down to the best of your ability. I'm ready to know what it feels like to experience more magic, synchronicity, and blessings in my life, or whatever yours is, right? And don't overthink it. You, in the deepest part of you, know what you wrote, even if you can't remember verbatim. So go ahead and bring that up. Say it silently inside of your mind to yourself. Continue deep breathing through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. Stay in your body. Relax your shoulders, soften your belly. Stay with this. And now I want you to feel into why is this important to you? Why does this matter? Is this going to make you feel the way you want to feel in your life? Make you feel like your life belongs to you more? Is it going to help you have better relationships with the people who matter most to you? Is it going to, give you a chance to maybe have a career that really resonates with your spirit and who you know you truly are? And that would just make you feel so joyful and fulfilled and give your life such deeper meaning. Whatever that is for you, bring that to mind now. And I want you to feel that in your body, how it would feel to have that now, to be exposed to that now, to see more of that now. How would that make you feel? joyful, expansive, free, relieved, on purpose. Feel it. Feel that in your body right now. And if it helps, you can visualize in your mind's eye what that would look like in your everyday life. The thing that you're seeing more of, or if you believe this is what you're experiencing in your life, right? And visualizing that specific scenario for you. Because there's a reason why you want to make these shifts. It's because you want to feel this very specific way in your life. So what is that feeling? And really just go into that now. And imagine what life would be like and what it would feel like living in that new possibility. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it at the top. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale through the mouth. and just be in this stillness for a moment. You are ready to experience new possibilities for your life. You wouldn't be here with me listening to this if you weren't ready. You're upgrading on all levels. You are the version of yourself that you want to be. That version of yourself already exists within you. You just need to decide to step into that version. So will you decide to step into that version right now? Step into the version of you who is having the life that you see and desire for yourself, who's seeing, experiencing, believing what may have felt foreign to you before or new or like just something you were wanting for yourself. But there's a version of you that lives inside of you already right now that's already living that. And all you have to do is choose to become that version of yourself. So when I snap my fingers, you will be merged with that version of self and you will begin acting as that version of self from this point forward. And if at any point the previous version of you comes back online, that's fine. Give yourself grace, notice it, and choose to step back into the version of yourself that you would prefer to be. So we're going to fully merge in 3, 2, 1. It's done. Take a deep breath in. And release. Phew. If you decide right now that this is true and real for you, then it will be true and real for you. Okay, now we're going to begin to return you to your body. And before you open up your eyes and reacquaint yourself with the space, it's very important to get grounded in your own body and physical density once again. So I want you to really focus on what parts of your body are touching the seat that you're sitting in or the floor. And I want you to feel the weight and the warmth. I want you to start to notice your breath again. And if it helps to place your hand or your hands over, one hand over your belly and the other hand over your heart, and feel the warmth generating between your hands and your body, and breathing into that warmth and breathing into your hands and wiggle your fingers and toes gently. And now I want you to slowly flutter open your eyes. Look around the room that you're sitting in and keep your gaze soft. And look all around, and I want you to find a texture of something. Maybe it's something shiny and smooth, or something soft and fluffy. I want you to notice that texture and notice the quality of light in the room. Where's the light coming from? And just notice it. What's the temperature in the room that you're sitting in? Is it cool on your skin? Or are you kind of warm? Are you just right? Just really feeling the temperature of the room. All right, and we're going to close this and move into the end of the tutorial. So, well done, my love. Okay, welcome back. So I really want to thank you for being here with me today. And I ask that if this resonated with you, please let me know in the comments, introduce yourself, ask any questions you might have. And if you love content like this and resonate with my vibe, please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Share it with a friend who could benefit from this discussion. And in closing, I just want to say, creating a better life for yourself isn't some glamorous, overwhelmingly complicated undertaking. It's a series of bite-sized adjustments made in the mundane micro moments of every single day. One minor attitude adjustment here, one act of honest self-accountability there, and courageously leaning into the discomfort this time instead of pushing it away, and more gentleness towards yourself in the moments when it feels as if you've backstepped. This is the path of self-mastery. All right, until next time, be well.